Hello, everyone, and it's great to be back from Money 2020 for another episode of the Fintech Garden Harvest News. Today, we collected three news that we think it's essential to discuss, and there is some hidden engines or hidden information in those news. So please join us. And with me today, Dimitri Condrea. Hello, Dimitri. How are you?
Hello, Igor. It's a big pleasure to return back to our weekly harvest reviews, and not only after Money 2020. Money 2020 conference this year was a very good one, very fruitful one for us. We made a lot of interviews, we spoke with a lot of people, and yet the time returned back to the reality.
The biggest news is coming from biggest evaluated fintech in European Union and United Kingdom. Vlad Yatsenkov is stepping down from CTO role. He's going to remain at the board, but his leadership is no longer as chief technical officer. And I think it will influence the company in the long run because from rumors on the market, the system and the structure that has been built in Revolut really getting the things done on the technology level. And a lot of people are underestimating the effect that Revolut has, because if you take a look on the market, they came later than other competitors as Monzo or Starlink to the market. But one of the hidden engine and power of Revolut is a technology. And I think that is really interesting news. So Dimitri, what do you think about that?
Well, it's an interesting move inside Revolut, mostly when Revolut announced a recorded profit for 2025, 2 and something billion, to the big profit of $2.3 billion for 2025, which is quite a big number. So here exist different rumors, but he is leaving this job, person who is already in place for 8 years as chief of technology and information officer, Donato Lucia. So this person will be in place. Seems like it's the end of a year. He will basically step down as CTO, but he will be in the board as non-executive director. Possibly these changes are something natural, like, if the company decided just to add some fresh blood into the management. Possibly exist some thoughts about the fact that the old management has to step down only because the company is not prepared with old management to step into a new future where agentic payments will come in place, where, for example, in our latest podcast, we were speaking that possibly AI agents will kill banking industry. So check it out, our last podcast. Possibly this is the reason. So the current management cannot afford or cannot deal with these new challenges. Who knows? But what they did a big, interesting job. They built an absolutely nice code. We know that Mr. Vlad Yatsenkov was very, very much involved in technical development from day one. Even, he was ready to make sometimes code reviews and so on from the rumors we are hearing from the side of the company. Maybe it's just he became very exhausted and it's very simple. He just decided to leave. We'll see.
So I think it's a kind of great idea to reach out for the interview and find out what actually is happening, and maybe on the later stages. But my thought is that the technology as a process is really fragile because right now the world is living in fast-paced world with AI. Everyone is using LLMs, and I assume that Revolut is going one way or another, new capabilities, and having the leadership changed in those periods, it's pretty bold move. And I think it's not because it's a personal decision. It might be due to some events or maybe even planned IPO in this case. So please keep an eye on news like that because it shows that even the biggest and successful cases, they have a lot of things going internally, and having the technology in place is really, really important. So that's a case that I think we will cover in the future harvests and also the podcast episodes.
Let's now move to Eastern Europe. Last week happened a very unique, I would say, and interesting thing in Romania. So in Romania, 10 banks received a total fine of around 710 million euros. This is absolutely unique thing. Why? Because Romanian Competition Council decided that a main analysis from 2022 till today, and they decided that Romanian banks were making some frauds with calculations of Robor. I think everybody knows about Euribor, basically a banking intercharging rate. Yes, so exists in European Union intercharging rate and exists Romanian BOR, Robor. Seems like all these 10 banks were made some, by the way, the mentioning in the document is acknowledged and well understandable manipulations with Robor in the moment when they were giving credits, loans, wherever to different users. This news for me is interesting because I'm Romanian, living in Romania, and for here in Romania, in the banking sector, it's a big news. A Romanian National Bank went out with a declaration like, hey, just give us more details because we don't understand what's happening, which is also a very unique thing because usually National Bank of Romania is very silent at anything. All 10 major 10 banks from Romania, inclusively Banca Transilvania, ING, Raiffeisen, everybody received fines. Even banks from who has just some offices here in Romania also received, or Simple Branch also received some fines. Absolutely unique because nobody received anything like this in the last, I think, 15 or even 17 years in Romania. Seems like a lot of regulators in Eastern Europe also started to look down what's happening in financial and banking sector. Possibly this is just the first, note of a song, a big song where a lot of regulators in Eastern Europe will pay attention to this.
That's kind of aligns what we discuss on other episodes and with the podcast, because the regulations are tightening. Right now, there are a lot of tools to analyze the bulk data to see what the banks are doing, and keeping in mind that we have a huge change with the stable coins and everything is happening. So I think the regulators, they more reading the details of the reports and what is happening in the market. And let's be fair, the big institution not always the whitest one, because let's put the story of Wirecard. Like for years it was audited by the big four, everything was amazing, but one day they acknowledged they lost kind of billions of euro. So it shows that whatever is going public, it's not always the real situation with the financial institutions and their communication with the regulators. I think it shows that something changed for sure. There is a reason why we were fined, and there is a reason why the communication is not so public as it can be. So for me, it's always the waves on the water, and it's really interesting what was dropped into the water. So let's continue, watch out what is going on. Maybe more news will come, because that's definitely the situation with the Wirecard. Like after a couple of years, there is a really nice documentary about the United Kingdom journalists who are going through the Wirecard and how the situation was developed and how it's ended. So I assume in half a year we will see more details what is going on, so then we can switch discussing the facts rather than just rumors and the fines that has been posted on the financial institutions.
Speaking about the fraud, third news, Wise, so ex-TransferWise and now it's just Wise, is under supervision of three regulatory bodies, three different countries. Wise is located in Belgium. Somehow very strange, the third entity, the third regulatory body who take charges or at least start investigation was a Belgian one. So Wise is being investigated to be a part of a huge fraud network and money laundering network. Maybe Igor, you know more details about this.
First of all, I think Belgium is quite logical, because if you have an experience using Wise, usually for opening European accounts, even not in Euro accounts, you will still use the virtual IBANs from Belgium. So basically, the main engine or the main heart of operations running in Belgium and European Union. And taking into account that there is a huge volume of the cross-border operations, that's quite logical point where all the operations and transactions starts in the European Union. So I think it's kind of connecting everything. My assumption that with the years, we've seen a lot of, I think, other communicated changes from Wise. You can remember the story with the closing down the United States operations and canceling the cards in one day, basically, for United States users, corporate users. And it was once again due to AML fraud detection and some kind of relationship with the vendors. Building businesses like that is really complicated. The system, which can be digitally built, is quite understandable. You are scaling, you grow in the number of customers and transactions, but compliance is really hard to scale. And sometimes the things that you collect, they might be evolving. And due to current situation with the European Union, the movement for sovereignty in payments and sovereignty in card networks, it's not really connected with the device, but that's a trend that we see right now. So I would say that's quite logical that Wise has more detailed focus from the regulators, and even in this case, the regulation bodies, they overview what Wise is doing with the under direct control. But once again, I think it's another way from the same thing happening on the market as we just discussed with Romania, because if the banks in Romania are fined and then regulation bodies are overviewing the actions of Wise, that speaks a lot that there are definitely some movements on the European Union market.
To be very honest and to point out the fact that this is not the first time Wise is under review. Last year, they paid in different United States budgets, they paid around 4.2 billion American dollars. as part of the fines or, I don't know, different payments to cover, legally to cover some of the discrepancies they're having. And they are from 2024 under special supervision from National Bank of Belgium also, because there were findings. They have like thousands and thousands of users without proof of address registered in Wise system who were making cross-border transfers and operating in all the countries in the European Union. So it's not the first time. Possibly it's just a long story of how Wise will be reshaped and how Wise will just, like Phoenix will just raise up from these situations and will become very powerful financial institutions. We'll see. This week was more about compliance, was more about findings, audits, and some major role changes in biggest financial companies in European Union. Thank you very much for watching us. We will keep you posted. Just follow us on YouTube, follow us on LinkedIn, Spotify. We will be glad to be here and to respond to all your questions in case if you have some. So wish you to have a nice week and goodbye.